Hello, everyone. This is Praveen from Factors.ai. Excited to have all of you here. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for everyone to come in. Yeah, just so that all of you know, so I'm joining in from Bangalore, India, and Leon is joining in from Amsterdam. We'll anyways do like a proper round of introductions, maybe in like a couple of minutes as well. So please stay on. Let's just give it like 1 or 2 minutes for the rest of the folks to join in. So Leon, when are you traveling to Australia? You just mentioned that you are.
Yeah, I'm going to head back, I think around the beginning of December, head over there for 6 weeks or so, do Christmas, New Year's with the family, maybe get a bit of skydiving in as well, and then back to nice cold Europe for February and the rest of winter.
Okay. And winter lasts like how long in Europe?
I think officially it's like 3 months, but being in Australia, it feels a bit more like 5 or 6. Yeah, it gets cold pretty quick. Yeah, coming into October now, it's starting to cool down a bit, but I'm getting used to it. It's not too bad now.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle whenever I try. I mean, obviously, I'm from tropical climate, right? Whenever I travel to a
Yeah.
place which is less than like 10 degrees or 15 degrees, I'm like, it's so cold.
Yeah.
Anyways, cool. I think we can get started now. I think we've given it like a couple of minutes. Hey everyone,
Cool.
excited to be here. Just by way of introductions, my name is Praveen. I'm one of the founders of Factors.ai, and I take care of the core product, customer success, and marketing functions at Factors. About Factors, we are a 4-year-old company. We operate in the account intelligence, campaign management, and analytics space. We work with over 500 customers globally, ranging from startups to enterprises. And today I'm very excited to have Leon from Snitcher. Leon heads the entire commercial business of Snitcher. Over to you, Leon, just so you can give an intro.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Yes, like as Praveen said, my name's Leon. We're been around for I think around 6 or 7 years now. We're a visitor identification platform, and we mostly focus on like the small, medium business to mid-market type companies. We're not quite moving up into enterprise yet, but yeah, we've been around for a little while now.
Yeah. So I think a fun fact, which always kind of shocked me when the first time Leon told me this is like, how many employees are there at Snitcher right now?
Right now, we just hired Stefan. He's our head of marketing. So now we're a total of five, hopefully soon to be 6, maybe 7 as well towards the end of the year. So if you guys know any good account executives or people for the sales team, give us a shout because we're looking to grow.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, Leon, you have like a large number of customers, right?
Yeah, we've just crossed over 600 customers now. So we're pretty proud to be cracking the 100 people, 100 customers per person at the moment, which is a fun metric to have.
Yeah, like 100 customers per person. Like the first time you told me that, literally, it literally shocked me. I was like, okay, that's just like a different level of efficiency and a completely different level of productivity that I guess you've been able to achieve. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to inculcate that culture in Factors as well. Because yeah, I believe it is possible, right? It doesn't have teams don't have to be bloated, and as I said, it was just a shocking statistic for me, and really kudos to the team at Snitcher for what they've been able to pull off in terms of like 600 customers with a 7-member team. Cool. So Leon, just to get started in today's chat, you mentioned that Snitcher is like a visitor identification platform. So obviously at the core of it is the whole idea of website intent, or on a larger abstract basis, signals which can then be used for sales and marketing, right? So could you talk a little bit about what are the trends that you are, and it is also a buzzword, right? Signal-based marketing, signal-based sales. It's something that has taken a lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of interest in it, right? So Given your exposure to all of these customers and what you have seen, what does signal-based sales and marketing mean, and
Mhm.
what are the trends that you're seeing in this space?
Yeah, sure. I think first it helps to kind of categorize like what is third party intent, first party intent, and second party intent, and kind of everything in between, because it is pretty broad when you start talking about like what is intent. And so for us, I kind of look at us as something in between like first party and third party intent, because we're obviously telling people which companies are visiting their website. Whereas something like a third party signal is information that you've gone and collected about a company outside of what's within your own sort of infrastructure, whether that be on your own website or if there's people signing into your product and you can kind of track them within a product, which would be more like first party intent. Um, and so, yeah, I think the intent, like the third party intent, has always been quite a bit of a buzzword, but it is definitely starting to pick up a little bit more these days. From what I've seen, especially since AI has really started to take off, people are starting to try and branch out a bit more and work out like, okay, what is a better way that I can go and find companies that are in market or capture attention in a more personalized or efficient way. And I guess a large part of that is since AI is making it a lot harder to get into people's inbox with things like cold outbound. We see that the spam algorithms are getting a lot better at categorizing things that aren't necessarily relevant for people. And also people are just getting like blasted with a lot of content at the moment through the inbox. We've also seen like with our customers, but also for ourselves, like the cost for ads is going up quite a lot as well. And so that's, I think, is also what's driving a lot of attention into visitor identification. It can help improve the targeting and bring down the costs of that sort of channel. But the AI causing issues is also a double-edged sword, right? Like it's also very helpful for non-technical people like sales and marketing leaders to go and scrape and categorize large amounts of information on the internet. And then once they've got a bit more information about what's out there, they can go and point their marketing machine or their sales machines at much more isolated pieces of information about companies. And that's going to help a lot with that is essentially the third party intent that I think is really useful and exciting these days is using AI to go and collect that information and categorize it in ways that we just couldn't do 2-3 years ago before we had these tools. Yeah,
Got
also
it.
curious to hear
So
like
if I had to,
oh sorry. I
yeah.
was also curious to hear like what sort of trends you're seeing as well in the signal based selling. Like are you seeing AI is also disrupting this sort of space?
Yeah, so I think my view is that a lot of the focus has been on the sales side, on signal-based sales, and I think on the sales side, it is easy to not. It's easier to kind of operationalize the idea of using signals in terms of personalizing your communication to a prospect, right? Like there's always been the idea of account research, and signals are just another sort of a dimension into that account research, right? Whilst earlier account research might have been restricted to company's industry, revenue, number of employees, at best
Right.
number of employees in the department that you're selling to, or something like that. Now you can get signals like, okay, what's their tech stack like? What did they purchase recently? What did they remove recently? Is the employee count growing? Have they hired like a new VP of sales from like an enterprise company who would then want to implement some of those enterprise go-to-market
Mm.
motions, right? So you're able to kind of draw a line and predict what this company is likely to do in future based on some of the signals like what I mentioned, right? Like whom have they hired, where do
Yeah.
they come from, what hence are they likely to go ahead and do, right? Whilst that gives you like a sense of what is an organization kind of going through and what are they likely to do in future. I believe the place where website intent kind of comes in is to say, hey, they are actively looking at your product right now, right? Or there was a
Right.
blog that you put out which was interesting for someone from there. So uh, not just that in future this may be interesting for them, they seem to be interested in it right now, right? Now the level of interest obviously varies. If they're reading a blog, then they were probably just curious about the content, vis-a-vis if they were on your pricing page and or staying on the pricing page, clicking on your FAQs and going through that, then and maybe even going through your terms of service, then I think you can be rest assured that the level of intent or the level of interest is definitely higher, right? So
Yeah.
in my mind, signals kind of feed into that account research aspect. It helps the sales team prioritize, and it also helps them personalize, and both of which are important, right? Like you have hard limits coming in on, for example, let's say email, as you said, is a channel where there probably isn't a hard limit as to how many people you can reach out to. but it's also like a race to the bottom, right? Your efficiency levels
Right.
are coming down, your reply rates are always declining, sort of a model. But if you move to a channel like LinkedIn InMail, there is a hard limit. You can only reach out to X number of people per day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is important to prioritize. And it is also hence important to personalize so that you are able to get enough of a success rate, so that the spam filters are not kind of blocking you as spam, right?
Mm.
So I think on the sales side, it's very interesting, and I think it has been well adopted as well. My view is on the marketing side, signals have to be aggregated because marketing doesn't operate at an individual account level unless you're selling to very large enterprises, right? So if you're
Right.
selling to Fortune 1000, then it makes sense to operate at the level of one account and then signals for that account. I think for marketing, you got to aggregate these signals into segments of accounts, which is where marketing can actually roll out a playbook, like saying, okay, I'll start like a LinkedIn campaign or like an email nurture sequence, or I'll start a
Mm-hmm.
gifting campaign for this cohort of accounts which are showing a very specific set of signals, right? So I think the moment you go into marketing, you got to score these signals, make it into like a segment, come up with a hypothesis of saying for this segment, I'll probably take this action, and then it kind of makes sense for marketing to act on it, right? So that's how I have seen most of our customers leverage this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned first party intent, second party intent, third party intent. There are also other sort of intent signals along the lines of, like, as I said, technology intent, or let's say review sites, which is like, again, a very common sort of
Sure.
intent data source. Now, how do you think about how do you think marketers should, one, prioritize all of these, because obviously it's like a lot to kind of act on individually, right? So what
Mm.
is a sort of best recommendation that you would have to say this is probably like a playbook that you can follow?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a pretty tough question that you can't really give like a one size fits all answer to, because like what you're really trying to do is find out what is a particular person at a company going through that I can go and push content at them to get them to take an action and start a conversation, or at least capture their attention with. And so generally when I'm meeting people for the first time and they're trying to like sort of break into this idea and build a playbook, I'm always pushing them to go and start working closer as a marketer with someone like the sales team, or start poking around your CRM and start seeing, okay, where are these conversations getting started with from the sales perspective, and start working out, like, what is the situation and the pains of our deals that are coming through, or our customers that we're doing a really good job at solving, and then categorize the companies into sort of a situation of pain, and then start thinking, what signal could I capture out there in the market that's going to reflect what's already working with us internally. And especially these days, you can start to think pretty outside the box with how you want to capture intent signals. So that's why I'm generally saying don't start with that, start with what you're trying to solve. And there's so many great tools out there, not just with visitor identification, which is a massive head start when people already know your brand, but you could do it with cold companies too. Like Clay is obviously making moves in the intent signal sort of ecosystem, where you can pull in loads of different signals into one sort of spreadsheet, categorize that, and then you've got a bunch of information to work with. And once you've got a bit of an idea of what pains and problems you want to solve, you can go and look at all these different tools out there that will help you find it. There's tools with Clay where you can go and scrape Google News, and you can go and look for keywords on Google News about certain companies, and that's going to give you signals that maybe this company has bought a new building or they've raised a funding round. You could go and scrape people's websites and pull new technologies that have been stored on the website, and that's going to give you a signal that the company's testing certain things out. There's just like so many different avenues that you can pull information in. We've even seen people where they're scraping like 10K and annual reports of enterprise companies, and they're just looking for specific sentences and keywords with the AI that then goes and signifies that the company is now moving in this direction for the next 12 months. And that's where they sort of start their very beginning of intent, and you work your way further down from there. There's definitely the easier, more low-hanging fruit where you can take signals off of companies that you already have relationships with. For example, with visitor identification, we're always encouraging our customers to go and track things like companies that used to be customers that have been identified on the website, or companies that are associated with a lost deal in your CRM that have now come back to the website several months later. these are super easy wins, right? Like you already know who the person is. You kind of know what they were interested in as you were going through the motions with them. And now you're just looking at like what pieces of content on your own website do you think that they're going to be interested in, and that's what you can use to go and start your conversation.
Got it. So if I were to paraphrase what you said, what you're saying is rather than starting with what signals are available in the market and then getting confused by all the hundreds of signals that could be there, listen to
Yeah.
your customer conversations, your sales calls to understand, and let's say if there is a specific pain point that they mention, right? Like why are they looking at a solution like yours now?
Yep.
And interesting that you say this because actually last week I went through like around 50 sales calls for Factors, and a few patterns really stood out, right? Like customers were saying things like, we're launching a new sort of overall positioning or like rebranding our offering, changing our positioning. So that's like one trigger point for considering a solution like Factors. Or they're launching a new product, or they're introducing a change in their sales structure where they want to go up market, right? They want to go
Yep.
after more enterprise companies, right? So there were like 4 or 5 such trigger points that I identified in terms of what what customers themselves articulated as reasons why they are evaluating a solution like Factors for driving more efficiency in their go to market. So what you're recommending is do the same thing for yourself. Figure out why are your customers actually evaluating you. Best place to know this is sales call recordings. Either attend sales calls or listen to the recordings. That will
Yep.
help you understand what signals are relevant. Is it like a new CMO hire or a growth in the sales team or something like that? And then try to figure out how to source those signals and if you understand that customer's journey to say, yes, I had seen your ad on LinkedIn and I had read your blog like 3 months back, then it helps you to understand that, okay, once a person lands on our website, maybe in like a 3 months time frame or a 2 months time frame, if they're also showing these other signals, they are likely to be interested in your offer. So
Yep.
map it out backwards from what has happened to your actual customers today. Did I get
Yeah,
it right? More or less?
exactly. Yeah, you've nailed it. And I think the ones that are people that I've seen do really well with this is they're using a bit of a blend. So they're looking for those external signals with the situations, but then they're tying that into companies that have been identified on the website who already know your brand and have started going through the marketing funnel. Those are the ones that you want sales to go and prioritize, or you want to go and put more budget into trying to capture the attention of them even more. They're just a better fit in terms of how well they know your sort of situation.
Got it. Understood. So combine website intent, which is a good proxy for awareness about your brand, with companies which are exhibiting other sort of signals, organizational signals to indicate that they are likely to be interested in your offer, and then kind of prioritize these accounts for your sales and marketing efforts, right?
Yeah.
Now, so you mentioned, let's say I've done this, right? So I've mapped out these signals saying, companies which hire a new CMO is what is like a key trigger signal for an evaluation of a platform like Factors. And if they're also increasing their pricing from 6 months back to now. So if they're putting in a more enterprise sort of go to market, have like a pricing plan which says talk to us or something like that. And I've also identified who is visiting our website and finalized the list. Now, typically, how have you seen sales teams and marketing teams act on this data? So, what are the personalization techniques that they use, and how best? What are the success stories, if any, that you can share as well?
Yeah, sure. First, I think it's important to point out that you made some very interesting distinctions about what you had from an intent signal and then other information you had about the account. It's very easy to go and look at somebody who's just hired a CMO, or in our case, we're often looking for companies that are looking to hire new sales roles. But that is just a signal about the situation of the account. It doesn't necessarily give you much information about the situation of the person. And so that tells a very different story if you go and start enriching things about the company that is expressing the signal. And if, for example, could go and say, okay, we're looking at companies that are hiring for sales, right? But if you go and enrich the size of the sales department, it tells you two very different situations about what the sales manager is going through. And so for us, we went and found a bunch of companies that matched our industry and size that are hiring for sales. But then we also went and added in the job size data, the department size data. And what we found is that if they have sales teams within our company size, they had sales teams sort of above 4 people. They also had like a lot more of a headcount growth within the company. their focus around what they wanted to do with the teams was more around ramping the reps faster and scaling the team and getting people to fill pipeline really quickly. And then we also found that with sales teams that were a lot smaller and they hadn't had a big headcount growth across the company, they were more focused on getting a higher quality leads and pushing less of a volume. And so the personalization, how we're targeting those two buckets within the one intent signal is completely different messaging. One of them was saying less leads, more meetings, and the other one is fill pipeline quickly. And so I think it is important that when you're going to go and capture a signal, that you do think a little bit more about a few layers deep and like, what does this actually mean for the person we're trying to market to? And then from there, you can go and start working out what campaigns do I want to go and spin up and which channels do I want to go and start capturing attention from. With us, we generally, once we've got those two buckets, we start with LinkedIn because it's very easy to go and hyper target the audiences that you want to go and advertise to. You could just go and use company names or industries. And then from there, once we've pulled them onto the website, we can go and identify them and then attach them to other channels. And the reason we've done it like this is because the way we're advertising on LinkedIn is a specific topic. It could be ramping reps faster with Snitcher or, more leads, more warm leads. And that's giving the two situations of what they're in. And then once they're on the website, we go and spin up all our campaigns around retargeting on Google, pushing cold emails at them, sending out automated LinkedIn requests. But it's all still personalized around that topic. And we know that they're experiencing this because they've taken an action by clicking on the LinkedIn ad and coming to our website. And so the odds of them converting and starting a conversation with us are much higher since they've already taken that action from that first touch point. And now they're just getting pushed on that same pain point throughout the journey, but from multiple different angles, which makes it feel a little bit less annoying and more gives you more opportunity to fill them up with ideas that get you excited about the brand. Is this sort of similar to how you guys are doing factors as well?
Yeah, so even for us, like the whole idea that you mentioned of splitting companies based on the nuance of are they going to be more interested in ramping up their sales team vis-a-vis getting more high quality sort of leads, right? So I think an example for us is we have a very strong LinkedIn advertising sort of a feature which helps you kind of essentially drive more ROI from your LinkedIn ads. Now, driving ROI from LinkedIn as a channel is obviously interesting for everyone, but the use case there can be so nuanced, right? So if you're doing more top of the funnel advertising, like the way I see it is there are only two ways you can get people to your website, right? One is you do great content and people discover on SEO and then come to your website, either SEO or you do great content on LinkedIn organic and social organic, and they discover and come to you on your website, or you use a channel like LinkedIn to distribute your content more effectively and people hear about you and come to your website, right? Now, the idea of driving more ROI on LinkedIn ads for a top of the funnel campaign is very different from the idea of driving more ROI when you're using LinkedIn as a channel to drive that last mile conversion, right? So again, our messaging is very different for if we see that most of the ads that a particular company is running is more brand awareness and top of the funnel, then we have a different set of messaging for them. Vis-a-vis, if we see that most of the ads, and we have the LinkedIn ads library through which we can actually go through and see, if we see that most of the ads that they're running are more schedule a demo or contact sales sort of bottom of the funnel ads, then we have a different messaging on what that improvement in ROI would look like, right? So completely agree with you that you should not try to think of one value prop, which is improve sales productivity with Snitcher as like one line item. If you can split it for different cohorts, and again, you may not want to split it into 5 or 10, but if you can split it into 2-3 different big cohorts where logically the value prop resonates differently, then it does make sense to kind of do that. And from a activation perspective, again, we follow a very similar sort of playbook. Only thing being, we rely still a lot more on inbound, so we don't really do a lot of aggressive sort of outreach. So we have like a LinkedIn campaign sequence which keeps running and nurturing those companies. We have a lot of offers which are content and tool offers, which some of those prospects would actually sign up for. And we only do like outreach once they actually sign up for something on the website, right? So we don't do like, for example, we still don't have a system of cold calling, right? Like we don't call people as such. At best, we might send like some emails, but not very aggressive on the outbound side. that is something that I'm looking to kind of change as well. And when we do that, again, we'll be relying on the website intent and other signals, because you don't want to be calling like 1,000 people and trying to get
Definitely
them
not.
into your funnel, right? So
Mm.
it's draining, right? So that's another place where I believe the productivity angle that comes from combining all of these intent signals becomes very useful. And even the personalization part, right? Like when you're calling someone, you have literally 30 seconds to
Yeah.
before they hang up,
Yeah,
right?
and that's where the intent signals
So
can come in a lot of handy. You can be really scalpel-like in how you want to go and capture the attention and start the conversation to make sure that they're engaged.
yeah, and goes back to what you said in terms of maybe we should have different messaging for each of these segments. Like what works for a very abstract messaging, like what I mentioned about factors like 2x your ROI from LinkedIn, might be too broad and too abstract for a person for it to like really hit the bullseye, right?
Mm.
So yeah, that's what I've seen. So the cold calling piece is something that we are now planning to kind of set up, and again would be leveraging the intent signals, content consumption signals to kind of do that well. Now, one of the other aspects that always gets talked about is, so we talked about sales and marketing teams right now. um, how do you think intent signals can act as like a unifying factor between sales and marketing? Because one of the traditional arguments that you hear is marketing is working on a set of accounts, sales is working on a different set of accounts, right? And they're not aligned
Mm.
at its most fundamental level on either the accounts that they're going after, or an alternative version of this is marketing generates a lot of leads, most of them sales doesn't really care about, right?
Right.
So do you think intent signals have a way can be leveraged to kind of unify both of these teams and have like a more consistent sort of go to market?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good question. And I think if you follow the right process and how you want to go and approach accounts, it's naturally going to pull marketing and sales together. If you, like I was mentioning earlier, if marketing is sitting there thinking like, okay, how can I deeper understand the customer or the audience that I'm trying to market to, the first thing that they would be helpful to do is go and start speaking to the BDRs or the account executives about how they're doing this. And like business developers or sales developers, most of their job is researching accounts and working out how can I get a hold of these people and actually start conversations. And as a marketer, you have the ability to go and scale that of whatever is working. So I do really recommend like get a hold of your BDRs and pick their brain about like what's working, how are they finding accounts that's sort of starting that conversation. And that helps a lot from the marketing front. And then to go and flip it around, I would say the marketers can also help the salespeople a lot if they start driving inbound leads. If they can go and clearly categorize what the intent signal or what sort of campaigns that they were using to go and bring this person in through an inbound lead, it helps sales a lot. Like if you can go and say, hey, here's an inbound lead. The reason why we think they've converted is because they're hiring for sales roles or because they've just installed a competitor's tracker on the website. We also think that they're probably more interested in ramping reps quickly, or they're more interested in getting different types of leads. The call that they're going to have on the very first interaction is like huge shortcuts. They can skip out a lot of the interrogation side of things about trying to understand why they booked the call and everything in between. And that makes it easier for everyone, right? Including the buyer. They don't like the interrogation side of sales. They kind of just want you to know what the issue is and just fix it for them. And so I think having that information readily available both ways is really going to help. It's going to help drive them together, but also just drive better results from both departments.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Especially the discovery questions and the interrogation side of the sales call, right? It is something that I dread for every sort of demo that I take. So one thing that we've done to kind of institutionalize this is in our sales deck that we present to every prospect. One of the slides says, "What do we know about you?"
Yeah,
Right.
nice.
So that is like the first slide that we show, saying, "Hey, this is what we know about you." And we just ask them, and it has all kinds of things, right? Like company, employee size, what sort of prospect segment, what kind of customers are they going after, how many people are there in their sales team, marketing team, are you running LinkedIn ads, are you running Google ads, etc., etc. And also website intent signals, what content have you seen you consume, and so on. So that kind of goes into one slide, and from there we kind of infer saying, hence we believe this is what you are kind of looking for, right?
Nice.
And what I have seen is, rather than the traditional interrogation kind of led questions, this actually makes it like a good conversation, right? Because the person on the other side now says, okay, fine, you've at least put in some effort to understand what is the context
Mhm.
in which I've come for this call. Maybe there are things that you've gotten wrong or you've not fully understood, because we're trying to kind of see through breadcrumbs and piece together a story. But they are more willing to kind of disclose those details, and it is a less of a shields up kind of conversation.
Mm.
And it actually helps us do more interesting sort of discovery, right? So something that I would recommend, for us it's been a game changer to kind of place that one slide before we get into like, this is what the product does, right? So what
Yeah.
do we know about you, and hence what do we believe is a priority for you? If people have different priorities, they'll tell us that. We'll change that on the slide on the demo, and then that then gets used in all of our customer success and further sort of efforts as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think
Another
people are quite happy to tell you how you're wrong or why you're wrong if you've already made some assumptions. It tears down some of those barriers.
Yeah, and I believe we are probably going to a world where prospects would probably say it is absolutely not acceptable that you've come into a call with very little preparation, right? And you're
Right.
just asking me, okay, so why did you book the demo? How many people are there? And all of these pieces of information, which you can sort of get right now pretty easily, right? So I think the bar for how well informed you are before you go for a demo is continuously going up. And at some point people might just call in and say that this is just not acceptable, right? I think there is one comment that has come up, and I completely agree that it is definitely not possible to get like the full picture.
Mm,
I think this is in a different context. Yeah, maybe we should just talk about this. I think Simon has
sure.
mentioned that whilst marketing can try and get like a full picture by speaking to your colleagues, they should also speak to 5 to 10 buyers and customers every month to
Absolutely.
try and get that right. um, I agree. I agree with this completely, but I just find that it becomes very challenging once you have like day-to-day work as in a marketing team as well. I try to institutionalize this by actually doing combining the marketing and so there are marketing teams who need to speak to customers, and likewise there is a product and the user experience research team which needs to speak to customers, right? Luckily at Factors, I kind of head up both product and marketing. So what
Mm,
we have done is we've kind of combined their requirement or their need to speak to marketing leaders to understand marketing better, and have like one call which includes a product team and the product marketing team, and the design team. And the design team only if they are an actual existing customer or a user, so they can get some design feedback as well. But at least the product team and the marketing team, so that both those teams are well served. And obviously they're looking at different aspects of this. The product team is looking for what is a priority business challenge for you, what is like a future roadmap item that we can add, and the marketing team is looking for their journey, right? That's what I
yeah.
have done, and I agree that that doesn't it no way equates to having a chat with your sales team. So Leon, how do you actually do that at Snitcher?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we both have a massive head start in this area because our product is selling into marketers. And so as marketers, we already
Yeah,
understand our audience because we are our audience. I think it becomes a lot more difficult when you have marketers that are trying to market or communicate with people where they don't really understand what is the day-to-day of their job, or like what are the deeper pains of how people are trying to solve and use your product. And you would want to have like a very good way of communicating that, either back down the customer lifecycle from say customer success or product into marketing, or you really just have to try and get them in on a call or keep them up to speed with some of the trends within the industry. But it's definitely one of the biggest challenges that I see from marketing, where they end up in a bit of a bubble and they lose touch with the audience of how they're trying to communicate with them. And I don't know if there's an easy way to solve that, other than just getting their hands dirty. And yeah, it's a
yeah.
tricky one.
I Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is. So we used to do like around 3 to 4 meetings a month, and then like in reality, what happened is September we were busy with a bunch of conferences and events, so we didn't actually do any customer research interview, right? And in October, we had to pick it up again. We just did the first one last week. So I feel everyone understands the importance of this, but in the day-to-day routine of work, it's just hard to kind of dedicate time for this. One thing that has worked out well for me is listening to customer calls and sales calls, right? Because all the calls are now getting recorded, transcribed, the highlights are being shown, the pain points, frustrations are being shown as snippets. So that is something that has really helped me a lot in terms of understanding customers' pain points. Again, it doesn't make up for having that in-person conversation and asking those specific questions, but I spend like an hour every day now just going through yesterday's sales calls and customer success calls, and it has helped me a lot in terms of building a pulse for what's important for people, right? So yeah, I think that's like a middle ground where you're still listening to the customer, but listening to a recorded conversation.
One thing that helped us a lot, especially me when I first joined Snitcher, and Stefan's feeling the same now. Stefan's our new marketing hire, by the way, is get them in support. Have them answering tickets with problems that are either trying to solve with the product, and then they'll very quickly start seeing the limitations of what your product can do to solve those problems. Or they'll also start understanding like, okay, this is the mentality of how these people are going to approach the problems with our product. And they can also help with product marketing, everything else in between. But speaking to people through support was just a massive unlock for us in terms of understanding what people were trying to do. So yeah, that's definitely a tip I'd recommend.
Leon, I just to kind of dig deeper into that. So do you really have the marketing team kind of manning a product chat where they answer customer queries, or do you ask customers to submit a help desk ticket, and the marketing team or whoever is responsible actually kind of responds to those tickets and closes it down?
Yeah, so I mean, being part of a 6-person startup, everybody kind of spins all the plates, right? So one of the first things that we get new hires to do, and Stefan's one of them now, is they start in support, and as they start to learn more about the product, a lot of the questions coming through that support chat, we have a live support chat, are pretty generic. And so if you have a basic understanding of the product, you can generally point people in the wrong direction. But every now and again, they'll get stuck. And that's when Stefan will usually come to me, or I'll end up going to Yuri, our founder who built the product. And then we all end up getting deeper understandings of either what our product can do or what these people are trying to do with it. But for us, it's pretty important that, especially when you first start at Snitcher, everybody is getting their hands in support and they're starting to speaking to customers from that front. And that's kind of part of the onboarding, I think. And slowly they start to phase out of that a little bit more. But it's all hands on deck here for most activities.
No, very interesting. I think it's giving me some ideas. I have a new person joining the team in a couple of weeks. I think it makes sense. We also have like a live product chat. I think it makes sense for me to get them started over there. I think to get back to Simon, I think that's probably another avenue to increase that customer interaction for marketers. Again, I still feel this is early onboarding phase. I think the ongoing one, probably recorded conversations as a middle ground, and
Definitely.
then more institutionalized UX or customer research calls where you can try and combine the needs of multiple teams like product, marketing, user research into like one conversation with a customer or a prospect. I think that's probably the best way to ensure that happens 5 to 10 buyers every month, right? Moving on, Leon. So we talked about intent signals, the use cases for intent signals, personalization, prioritization, both for marketing teams and sales teams. How would you finally measure that this is actually working, right? So what are the KPIs that you are advising your customers that you track yourself to kind of say this is working or not?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky one as well, because if you're trying to measure the success of an intent signal, that's really just the source of where you're starting a journey for somebody. And so I generally don't recommend reinventing your attribution structure. Like, you don't want to reinvent the wheel from what you've got. You really just want to go and benchmark, okay, here's stuff that we're doing from, say, a cold audience or a top of funnel brand awareness campaign. And then here's campaigns that we've gone and pushed through the funnel where the intent signal is the very beginning of where we started that journey, and then compare the benchmarks of each conversion phase against each other, rather than trying to sort of start everything from scratch. I would just keep the general stuff that you're already using. You want to go and look at things like how many touch points is somebody receiving before they convert from it via intent signal versus just something like cold or broad. You could go and look at things like win rates for deals, pipeline velocity, maybe the cost per conversion from a marketing perspective could be a little cheaper if they're a little bit further through that education or awareness phase about what the problem is or what your brand is. But I wouldn't say that you want to go and dig super deep into the details on that. You want to go and start fishing for which intent signals are getting the highest conversions or the highest quality stuff coming through overall, rather than trying to optimize every step along the way. And there's so many different channels you can pick from.
No, I agree. And also I think, like we mentioned, there are multiple intent signals. It's not one or two, right? So tracking, like, you don't want to make this a combinatorial problem of like saying where you had like one signal versus another signal and try to isolate that. The approach that we follow as well is we ultimately consider all the signals and score accounts into certain buckets to say like hot, warm, cool, etc. And then we try to compare the difference in all our go-to-market metrics between accounts that we mark as hot versus the accounts that we mark as cool, right? And the metrics that we use are how many inquiries are we getting, how many opportunities are we getting, what is the average ACV, what is the sales cycle length, what is our win rate, etc. Which kind of helps us understand whether if the accounts that we mark as hot are really converting faster at a higher rate and hopefully at a higher ACV, right? And again, not all of those metrics may equally kind of trend in one direction, especially if you have a mix of segments that you're going after. Like, for example, our enterprise customers take much longer to convert, but the ACVs are much higher, right? So it's not that all the metrics may be in green. Depending upon the segment that you're targeting, what you really want to see is if you know that for you're going from a SMB or a upper mid market to enterprise segment, you should expect that your sales cycles will get longer. But if your win rates are improving and if your ACVs are improving, then that's like good news, right? So that's how we approach it as well, and using a feature called segment insights within factors, right? There's one question here, Leon, from Simon again on, can you expand on how you track the signals? Maybe I can just go first in terms of what we do, and then I'll pass it over to you, Leon. So Simon, from our side, Factors is a complete event analytics platform. So what it does is it has the ability to track events at an account level. And these events can be anything from your CRM data, like, oh, there was a email that the salesperson sent out for which you got a reply for a particular account. So that becomes like an event with a timestamp. It could be all your marketing automation data, like they attended a webinar or downloaded an ebook or was feeded in by a content syndication partner in terms of downloading an ebook on their website or something like that. It could be your website intent signals, which also comes up in that timeline as a event scoped sort of a signal. Or it could be not third party, review intent signals like G2, which also kind of come over there, right? And you also have the ability to track LinkedIn signals, like they were clicking on your ads and so on as well, which you can kind of bring into Factors. So everything goes into like a consolidated account level timeline with timestamps saying this is when a specific sort of activity happened. We also allow you to upload your own sort of intent signals in the form of Excel sheets. So we have customers who actually upload signals like a new VP of marketing was hired on this date, right? And they have other solutions which actually kind of give them that data. They can just upload that into Factors. And the idea being, how do you consolidate that into that one timeline so that you can then do better analytics, better segmentation, better campaigns on top of it, right? So that's how we do it. Leon, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think Factors has a much more bespoke tracking infrastructure. You guys are focusing a lot more on not just the stuff before they convert in the marketing funnel, but right across the customer lifecycle, so you can go and update existing signals for customers and stuff. And we're not that far along, I would say. Like, we just don't have that much infrastructure for it yet. But what we do have in terms of tracking new signals for the net new stuff is we have tables in Clay. And what we're looking for is how fresh is the signal, and then that signal is how broad is it? Like, is it actually worth putting resources into, or are we going to run out of signals for that specific topic? Job change data is always very rich. There's loads of that coming through all the time. And so we know that it's worth putting marketing budget into building campaigns and audiences around that within LinkedIn or Google Ads, because they're not going to be so small that it blows out the cost by quite a lot. And then, yeah, of course, we also go and track everything in product as well with our visitor identification product. He's also got another question here. Do you label or categorize the signals manually, or do you do it automatically? For us in HubSpot, we've got a little bit of this stuff loading in automatically. We're enriched data with things like built with, but I would hazard a guess that, Praveen, you've probably got a lot more that you're loading into these things automatically outside of a CRM.
Yeah, so we've tried to categorize all of these signals as much as possible into job changes, website intent, third-party review intent, webinars, ebooks, which is more of your marketing campaigns, and then sales touch points. And again, those nuances of, is this a company that you already have a relationship with, in the sense of you have like a past opportunity or a past deal, versus it's a completely new company, because you again want to treat them very, very differently, right? Having said that, I'd still say we are still playing catch up, because that entire universe of signals has really exploded over the last few months, right? So every time we believe that we've kind of done a decent job, it's almost like we're 10 steps behind already, right? So I believe it's probably going to take around 6 to 12 months for this entire space to kind of stabilize, but we are trying our best to automatically categorize these signals. So because otherwise it's just really hard to kind of use them, right? If you have like 100 signals and you don't really know how to actively use that. And we are also coming up with a lot of predefined templates which help you kind of assign scores and weights based on your past data on how the signal should be used. Because over time, I think that will become the second, like the bigger problem, which is what weight should I give to each of these signals, right? Anyways, like coming towards the end of our live, and today I also wanted to kind of announce that we are obviously partnering between Snitcher and Factors. So today we are officially announcing our partnership, where Snitcher would be one of the partners that Factors leverages from a website visitor identification perspective. We've always known about Snitcher for a while, and the way this happened was I reached out to Leon over customer support, and as he mentioned, I think he was manning the customer support chat that day, and I got back a response, and then we got on a call, and it made sense. So the way I think about the synergy between Factors and Snitcher is, Snitcher obviously has solved this very complex problem of how do you actually identify the accounts that are visiting your website, and how do you do that accurately. And that's something that we're continuously improving and kind of getting better and better at. Factors, on the other hand, does a lot of analytics, does a lot of orchestration, workflows, campaigns, using that data, right? So we are more downstream in terms of how do you actually pick up the website intent data, CRM data, G2 data, LinkedIn data. How do you then combine that, create segments, core accounts, and then activate campaigns on LinkedIn, Google, or activate sales workflows for our customers, right? And that's the sort of area that we are kind of focusing on. And how do you actually measure whether this whole system is working out well, right? So that is where we found the synergy that it makes sense for us to partner. So Factors customers can, going forward, access the Snitcher's high quality IP to company, the website identification data as part of the Factors product. Leon, any thoughts from your side on the partnership?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail pretty well on the head. We're obviously super excited to launch the partnership and get our data into the hands of your customers and start learning more about all the cool stuff that they can do with it. Yeah, we're just excited to see like what goes from there. We're looking, maybe we build the products a little bit closer together where we can get our customers further into the analytics platform of Factors as well a little bit later on down the track.
Yeah. So we have a lot of plans for more deeper product integrations as well, and hopefully all of that will pan out over the next few months. But for today, I think for the 500 odd customers that Factors has and the 600 odd customers that Snitcher has, you can now think of us as like a combined sort of offering where we pick up from where like very complementary sort of offering, which just drives a lot more go-to-market efficiency for our customers. Yeah, really excited about this partnership and taking this forward. We will share frequent updates in our sort of individual product newsletters and joint webinars that we'll do once in a while. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Leon or myself. We are available on LinkedIn or via email. And obviously, we will be sending out some communication for our mutual customers on what this means for them and how they can best leverage the integration and the partnership that we have. Right? Cool. I don't think there are any other questions. Anyone in the audience, if there are any questions, we are happy to kind of take that right now. Or alternatively, as I said, you could always ping us 101 and we'd be available to answer any questions that you have. Right? I'll probably just give it another 30 seconds to a minute to see if there are any questions. Thanks, Simon. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Simon.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
I don't think there are any other questions, Leon. So I think that's it for now, guys. Thanks a lot for listening in live as well as watching this video after. As I said, always available to take any questions that you have. Please feel free to ping Leon or myself. And excited to take this partnership forward.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, everyone. Enjoyed the conversation.
All right. Cool. Thanks, everyone. I'll just end the stream now.